Now, hundreds of residents have been displaced after a fire tore through the Tsepe Tsepe informal settlement in Khayelitsha. The fire destroyed shacks and belongings. Emergency services and community organizations are on the ground assessing the damage and working to support those that have been displaced by the blaze. Newzroom Afrika's Nasiphi joins us live for more. Nasiphi, a very good morning to you. Any inclination as to what may have caused this fire?
Well, at this current moment, it is still unknown the reason for the fire that raged through the Tsepe Tsepe informal settlement here in Khayelitsha on Sunday afternoon. We understand that initially, while it was reported that about 500 people have been impacted by this particular blaze, there has been a recount and a verification of those fire victims. And fortunately, or rather the councillor will be detailing to us as a result of how many people have been directly impacted by this particular fire. As you can hear behind us, people have already started to salvage what they can from the blaze, and also just trying to pick up the pieces and ensure that their families or their loved ones at least have a roof over their head more than 24 hours after the blaze. But to talk to us more about this particular fire, I'm joined by Khayelitsha Peter, who is the ward councillor of this area. I think let's start off by the number of people that have been impacted by the blaze, the fire victims, but also do we know perhaps the cause of this particular fire?
Thank you, ma'am. The number of people who are affected by the fire, the total of 383. Yes, that includes children, infants, elderly, people living with disabilities, and a whole lot of community members who reside in the area. And the cause of fire, which broke up at around 12:30 on Sunday afternoon, nobody knew the cause except the community members who are neighbors, whom have noticed that there's a fire starting at the neighboring shack. When they started to knock at that shack, the owner of the shack was sleeping because he's working as a taxi driver from the taxis that are moving Eastern Cape, Western Cape for people. And when that young man was asked, when he was woken up, he cited that he did not cook. He was not cooking. He was sleeping because he's tired from the road, and he had his lunch and food along the road. So he only came back to sleep. Nothing that was on that was like a stove or whatever. So he also did not know what made the fire.
We can obviously see the devastating impact of the fire, but you were telling us that you've also got concerns that people are going back to work, but also one of the other concerns is the fact that it is back to school next week and people are unable to ensure that they're ready for the coming weeks. As a result, many of the residents here are SASSA beneficiaries.
It's true, yes. Many of the residents are SASSA beneficiaries. Like they also need a lot of money from SASSA, whom are supposed to be getting today. They are unable to get it because their IDs and their SASSA cards are bent. Because when the fire ravaged the area, they could not take off their belongings. Because it was like a small thing when it started, but because of the blazing of the fire, when the fire engines who were working in the area could not manage the fire up until they finished up the water from the fire engines, they had to move and find the water elsewhere. And then that situation took the advantage of the whole area to be bent. When they came back, it took about 5 hours, almost 5 hours, for them to manage and control the fire.
I mean, we can't ignore that we're in the thick of fire season, hot, dry and very windy conditions. I mean, just looking back at Sunday afternoon, while it was hot, how was, the wind? Did the wind in any way contribute to the devastation that we're seeing behind us?
Funny with our weather on Sunday in Khayelitsha, it was not a windy day. It was just a normal day, but unfortunately, sometimes fire attracts wind because during that time, when the fire started, some wind started also to come up gradually. So it also helped the fire to blaze off the area. And the truth to say that it's back to school. I did not answer that question. It's back to school. People are supposed to be going back to work. This week we're going to get some earnings to be able to buy bus tickets for kids and school fees and school uniforms, stationaries. They're unable to. Some even now are crying that they need to get affidavits, some kind of reports to their bosses that they're unable to get to work because they don't have even clothes, washing rags and everything else to help them, and toothbrushes to clean themselves to be able to go to work in a devastating environment like this. So we're still trying to help those that must get also affidavits to their bosses so that they cannot lose their jobs. It's a very worrying situation.
A worrying situation indeed. I'll just ask my colleague to show you the truck from the city of Cape Town to my left-hand side. Eskom, my apologies. They are currently working on ensuring that the residents, when they do put up their structures, they are able to have access to electricity. A number of the service delivery has been impacted, but officials are on the ground assisting. Main concern from the ward councillor that she's raising is the issue of back to work and back to school, and she is saying that she's going to be engaging with a number of departments to ensure that they speed up the process for people to have access to their SASSA cards, including identification, so that many of them can go to the banks and have those cards reactivated.
All right, thank you so much for that update.